All right, Bill. Keep Bill in a good mood.
Welcome, Roger.
Thank you.
You toured Allegiant Stadium on your last visit last month. What was it, November or December, I believe? And
It was.
what was your biggest impression?
You know, it screams Las Vegas Raiders, and it just, you can see it. It's silver and black. It's in such a great setting, coming off of the Strip like that, and it's really the Raiders' true home now, and that's it makes that statement just by looking at it. And I think once you go inside the stadium, you see all the technology and the way that they put the stadium together from a fan perspective, without really missing a beat. And then they have their own, I think, signature items. Mark's dad, Al Davis, loved the flame.
Right.
So there's going to be a flame in that stadium, which I think is going to really be an iconic part of that stadium. And I think it's something that everybody here in this room clearly is going to be proud of, and certainly we are in the National Football League.
Well, that takes in my next question. What will the NFL and the Raiders do for the Valley as a whole?
Well, I think, listen, this area, this region, this city, Las Vegas has really done such an incredible job of growing, diversifying, and becoming a world-class city. And I think that's what attracted Mark and Raiders and, of course, the NFL support behind that, because it is a city that is on the rise and has been through a tremendous transformation, which we want to be a part of. We want to try to contribute to that. We want to find a way to make it bigger and better faster and to meet the objectives of this community. And I think our platform, and I believe, can help. But I also believe there's something really special about sports franchises. You guys have experienced it here with the Knights. The Raiders will be another part of it. There's nothing that binds a community together like a sports franchise.
Part of that plays into there. The Raiders are building another facility, the training facility in Henderson.
Right.
It's being built with the community in mind in terms of apartments, shopping, entertainment, structure down there. Is this what the league is hoping for down the road for communities like this in terms of training facilities and being part of the community?
Well, I think NFL and their franchises are part of the community. I think that's what makes us special, is the communities that we're in, we are actively engaged in not what we want to do, but what the community wants to do, and how do we help support the efforts in that community. And I think you're already seeing that with the Raiders. They're now officially the Las Vegas Raiders. They're here, and you're going to see a lot more of them. You're going to see the stadium opening, and you're going to see the draft coming in a few more months. And I think all of that will be a way to give back to the community and ultimately bind the community and those franchises and those events.
How can the business community do? What can the business community do to get involved with the Raiders?
Well, first I would tell you thank you, because I don't think we'd be sitting here today talking about the Raiders opening their season in 2020 without this business community. Second, I would tell you that in my experience, nearly 40 years in the NFL, I have been around to all 32 franchises. I was part of expansion. And I would tell you the thing that makes NFL teams successful are the community and the business community. And without that kind of a relationship and a supportive relationship both ways, I don't think the franchise is as successful as it should be and could be. And so to us, all of you are going to be critical in our success and all the events we bring here. And I think these events hopefully will allow everyone to see the incredible things that are going on here in Vegas, things that you are behind, that you're investing in as a community, and how we can try to help make that a little bit better.
We've seen Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, quite a bit around Las Vegas already. He's been at the front row of most Las Vegas Aces games. He's been wearing a Golden Knights jersey. What should we expect from Mark?
He'll probably be wearing a Raiders jersey this fall, but that's the first thing. Mark is a remarkable man, and he, to me, he's done something that I think is really extraordinary. The Raiders have struggled for decades, frankly, trying to find that true home, to get a new facility that is built for the Raiders and for football. And that's what you're all going to experience when you walk over to that new stadium, is when you walk in there, you know you are in the Raiders stadium. And that is, I think, really an incredible achievement that Mark and his vision, the vision of the leaders here in Las Vegas, have really, when they look back at that, that's going to be a crowning achievement, I think, for not just Mark and the Raiders, but I think it'll be something that all of you will look back and be very proud of. So Mark will be engaging the community. I will tell you, every time we've gone through the stadium, he's come with us. He loves it. He tells me his favorite time to walk over to the stadium is late at night when he can walk around by himself. And he's just, I hate to say it this way, but he's like a little kid in the candy store. And it's fun. And I think he's so proud of what he's going to be able to do for the Raiders. No one is more committed to winning than Mark. I hear from Mark frequently after games. It's not the best phone call because he likes to talk about officiating a lot. But
I think that's been a decades-long thing. So.
Yeah, Mark, he sort of picked that up from his father too. Yeah. I think, but I get it, and that's part of the job. But I think his commitment to this community and to making sure that he puts not just a world-class stadium here in this marketplace with all of the people here, but also to win and to build a championship team and organization that you'll be proud of and that will be successful for many decades.
The city's... We've got the NFL draft coming in April. The city seems very excited about it. First, before we talk more about it, here's a video that gives people an idea of what it's all about.
Amazing.
And the winner of NFL season's tickets for the next 100 years, Greg Hampton.
With the first pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Kyler Murray, quarterback, Oklahoma. For Tampa Bay's pick, I'm joined by Casey Reynolds, a Make-A-Wish kid and a huge Buccaneers fan.
Pro Football Hall of Famer Jim Brown.
How we doing, Nashville?
Welcome to Las Vegas.
Welcome to Vegas.
Welcome to Las Vegas.
Welcome to Vegas.
Welcome to Las Vegas.
Welcome to Las Vegas.
I'm Steven Jackson, and welcome to Vegas.
I can go long, I can go short.
I think the questions are... We've talked about in our meetings how many hugs you give out on draft day, so it's...
Yeah, it's actually a rough day for me. So, it's between the booze and the hugs, yeah.
Even the jumping out there. It's 14 weeks away. It appears to be one of the biggest events we've ever had. New Year's Eve in triplicate, we're calling it. What do you expect from a draft to take place in Las Vegas?
I think it's going to be incredible excitement. Every year we started moving the draft out of New York and moving it from city to city about 5 years ago. And we were Chicago the first 2 years, and Philadelphia, then Nashville this year. And every year, the events got bigger and bigger. Last year, we had 200,000 people per day at the draft, so 600,000 people attended, and nearly 50 million people watched nationwide and actually globally. So to think about that for the draft, when I first started the NFL, we were in a ballroom about this size, and it was an event, but it was usually reported in the paper the next day. And so I think this is going to be where it becomes successful is when communities take it and make it theirs. So this should be about Vegas. This should be about showing off this city, this great city, the iconic features of the city, the people of the city, and I think that is what's going to make it truly spectacular.
Any details you can give us about it?
Actually, I can't.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I can't. Because I think our staff is going in front of the commission on Tuesday, and they have to approve it. So if I say something and it doesn't get approved, then I'm really in trouble. So I think the best thing to do, I will tell you this, that we are going to try to incorporate all of the iconic features of this city as part of that. We are going to do what we can to show the tremendous entertainment and hospitality that goes on in the city. And I think what will come out of that is that you all will be done with that event saying, wow, that was special, and hopefully leave a lasting legacy here in the community that people will look back and say, the draft was a great event here, and we want it back one more day.
Sounds like a great event, but let's talk Super Bowl. When you were here last?
Whoa.
You said Las Vegas.
We got to get to the draft first.
Let's get to the Super Bowl. When you were here last in Las Vegas, you said Las Vegas has what it takes to be a Super Bowl host. Can you walk through the process now? It's different now, I guess, that would take for Las Vegas to become a Super Bowl host city.
Well, Bill, the first thing you got to do is get to the draft. Once we get through that, then we'll go. But the process, listen, similar to the draft, what we try to do is we try to pick cities that understand the impact it has on their city and have a special way of presenting that and making it bigger and better for our fans. Because fans come from all over the world for both the draft and the Super Bowl. So this city knows how to put on big events.
Right.
There's no question about that. You have the infrastructure, and that's why I think you're Super Bowl ready. You now have Allegiant Stadium, which is going to be a world-class stadium, which is our stage, ultimately. So you do have everything here. Now it's just a matter of working with the leadership to understand how do you want to execute on that? How do you take the Super Bowl and make it bigger and better? A Super Bowl now has an economic impact of well over $500 million. The draft alone, when we started 5 years ago, I think was in the $80 million of economic impact. Last year in Nashville was $224 million. I believe Las Vegas is going to blow that away.
Wow. I'm gonna get greedy on you. We've talked NFL draft. We've talked Super Bowl. What about the Pro Bowl? What does it take to get an event like that?
How about kickoff? You have to win the Super Bowl to host the kickoff.
Let's talk Pro Bowl.
The Pro Bowl is a great event. It's 88 of our top players. As a matter of fact, they'll be heading to Orlando in just a few days. It's one of those events where I think is fun. It gives you a chance to see the other side of our players. We get 10 million people watching it, and I think it would be a great place to have the Pro Bowl right here in Vegas. I think it's a perfect spot for it. I don't know what else is on your list, Bill.
We're done for now. The shopping list is done. Do you remember the first time you came to Vegas? What was your perception of the city, and how has it changed?
Good. I thought you were going to ask for details. I came to Vegas probably close to 20 years ago. It was my first visit. And, it's an exciting city. You feel the excitement as soon as you come in. You feel the energy. And that was wonderful. And what I see now, though, is a city that's just emerged from, the Strip and to being primarily a casino-driven town to something that's really quite remarkable. Right? It's diversified in its businesses and its entertainment, and its people, and the leadership here has done an absolutely incredible job of growing the city, and we think it's really still at early stages. That's what's exciting for us. We feel like we can be a part of that, go along for the ride, maybe contribute a little bit here and there, but help make the city get to where it wants to go faster. And so that's what strikes me so much of how it's changed. And while it hasn't lost its core spirit, which I think is so remarkable and so important. And I hope it never does, by the way. But I do see tremendous growth coming in this market.
Is that what led the NFL owners to change their mind about okaying this as a home for an NFL franchise?
Well, that's a long story, Bill. But no, I do think that was a tremendously important aspect of it, because it was much broader.
Right.
It was a city on the rise. It clearly wanted to see a sports franchise here. It was willing to invest in a building the kind of stadium that we thought was important to the Raiders franchise. And we all wanted that true home stadium for the Raiders, and this is the place. And I just think it's going to be exciting for everybody, and I think we'll all be grateful that Mark Davis made the decision to come here.
The Raiders have had people on the ground already, in some cases for 2 years. People can't wait to buy Las Vegas Raiders gears. What did the reception of the Raiders here tell you about the fans, the way they've kind of embraced the team, and it hasn't even played a game here yet?
Yeah, well, just more broadly, I'd say the Raiders are a global brand. The Raiders are an incredibly popular team around the world. We like to take them, as Mark doesn't like to hear my call coming when we ask them to go play in London or Mexico. But they are an incredibly popular team on a global basis. The fans here have been extraordinary. They have supported the team through ticket sales, through club seat sales, suite sales. The businesses have bought that inventory. It's just been absolutely incredible. And obviously the support of the stadium to start with.
And they've just sold out of PSLs as well.
And they've sold out of PSLs. They're selling out of everything, which is the good news. And I think the excitement's only going to build with the draft. We spent some time this morning talking about when we'd have the big kickoff here in Las Vegas, so that we can do that in a way that makes sense and really build this over the next 6 or 7 months, because I think the anticipation is going to be really terrific.
We'd prefer the first Sunday night game, if you don't mind, okay?
I thought you were done with your list.
No, I got some others. At least I'm not asking for the combine or anything like that. So we're in the world. We're in the world's home of sports gaming. It's now that it's nationwide, thanks to the Supreme Court ruling. How is that impacting the league, if at all, and how does Las Vegas play into that, obviously?
Well, I think it's something we anticipated was happening. You could see it evolving, and so we've been preparing for it. We think that sports gambling in many ways creates a lot more engagement for our fans. It gives them another opportunity to engage with our game. And fantasy football did that to a large extent. I think this is fantasy football on steroids.
Right.
It's going to give people a chance to really participate in some fashion. We obviously are very focused on it. We still want to protect the integrity of our game, number 1, 2, and 3, and the people who play it, officiate, coach it. All of that has to be done in a way that is going to ensure that what you see on the football field is real and there's no influence. So that's important. We want to protect our consumers. So we want to make sure that whatever way which they're engaging, that they can do it safely, correctly, and that they're going to be protected and make sure that it's the highest possible game. And then third would be to try to protect NFL's IP,
right,
and to make sure we're protecting our data, our official data, our IP, and making sure that we can do that in a way that makes sense for our consumers, but also protects the league. But I think it's going to really be an incredible change. It already has in the short term. We have great new partners, including Caesars here in Las Vegas, and that's given us new energy. It's given us a new perspective on how to engage with our fans and how to continue the success of the league as we go into our next century.
Full disclosure for the room, I worked for this man from 4 years ago. I managed a website that discussed NFL injuries, NFL safety, called the NFL Evolution. How do you assess the effectiveness of the NFL efforts to treat concussions, serious injuries like that, and what else needs to be done?
Well, there was a lot of I'd say, resistance from outside forces about making our game safer, because people didn't believe we could make our game safer for our players and better. But that's always been our highest priority, and it continues to be. So we've had 50 rule changes just in the last 15 years or so that have all been designed to make the game safer, take certain techniques out of the game. And that has been incredibly effective for making our game safer for our players. And I just spoke to a player the other night who just retired, Luke Kuechly, and he said, what we've done with the game to make it safer for our players is extraordinary. And he was very appreciative, which shows this kind of class guy he is. Second, in particularly the concussions, we have invested in research and trying to develop state-of-the-art helmets. Last season, 19 season, the one we're concluding, we had 99% of our players wearing the highest quality helmet. And to me, that makes me proud. And what the results of those two efforts, frankly, are the fact we had a 30% reduction in concussions 2 years ago. Our numbers are not out for this season, but I think they'll be very close to that. So we've created a new normal of the types of injuries. Now we're focusing on how do we use the same model and reduce the lower extremity injuries. So how do we prevent hamstring pulls and ankle sprains, high ankle sprains, ACLs. Those types of injuries actually cause a lot more games to be missed.
Right.
And are important to our players too. But I think our medical care for our players has never been better. I think it's the best in the world. We have invested in it. We put infrastructure. We're investing in research. And someday when I move on from this job, I think that'll be the thing I'm most proud of.
You've talked about what football does for you as a person, does for anybody as a person. The intrinsic values, despite playing the risks of the game. How's your experience as a high school player shape you as a person? How does the average person playing football shape them as a person?
Well, I don't think you have to play in the NFL to understand the values that come from football. You may not even have to play the game, but I would tell you playing the game for me, I use the things I learned from the game every single day in this job, in my life, in the way I bring up our daughters. The values, the discipline, the perseverance, the hard work, and maybe most of all, teamwork. People like to think you get someplace by yourself, and that's not true.
Right.
The ability to work as a team and to see a bigger objective and to achieve that collectively, even if you're not the most talented team, and to play with people you don't know necessarily, may come from different backgrounds, may have different colored skin, but we work together as a team to achieve something really terrific. And when that happens, that's magic. And it's something that extends far beyond the football field for me. But I think football is the greatest team sport in the world. And the values I got out of that, I use every day. But I also believe people admire and respect that. I think it's one of the reasons this is the most popular sport here in the States, is because people appreciate that teamwork. They appreciate the work that goes into being successful. And that's why we do what we do.
I have a feeling there would be a lot of people in the audience who would not be happy if I didn't ask about the action on the field. We've got two very good matchups in the championship games this weekend. What are your thoughts on Sunday's games?
You're good, Bill. You used to work for me, and that's where we're going to keep it.
Still a journalist, so yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. I think one of the most interesting stats to me is about the competitiveness of our league. So last week we had 8 teams in the divisional playoffs. 7 of those teams did not get to the divisional playoffs last year. The Chiefs were the only one that did. This week, we have 4 teams. 3 of them didn't even make the playoffs last year. The Chiefs are the only one.
Right.
And so to me, that shows the hope that we try to inspire through the competitiveness of our league, is the ability that your team can go from last to first. That is something that we think is unique to NFL football. We have a 6th seed in the team with Tennessee, who's maybe one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Okay, just a Tennessee fan. And then you see some of these young quarterbacks.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes is an incredible athlete. You saw Deshaun Watson last week. Lamar Jackson. The future of our game with these young players, they're changing the game. They're making it more exciting, I think, for our fans. And that is, I think, what makes me feel that the best days of the NFL are still ahead. And Sunday is going to be a good one. I'm going to Kansas City because I love being there. It's a great experience to be inside that stadium. And then a couple weeks later, we're going to Miami.
Is that why you think the game is strong right now? Is that why you think the TV ratings are up? You've had another record year in that regard.
Yeah, I always think it starts with the game. We don't like to call it a product because it's a game to us, but the competitiveness of our league, the competitiveness of our teams, the way they interact in their communities. We're 47 of the top 50 shows this year. Our ratings continue to excel, and it's more than ratings. It's engagement, and it's on different platforms now. Ratings are really more specific to linear television. Now with digital, it gives us a way to interact with our fans in a whole different way.
Right.
You see that particularly with the younger generation, and I'm looking over there and I see phones over. It's a different way for us to interact with our fans and put us on a different platform. And I think the league will continue to be one of those great giants of content, in large part because we're live. We have the shortest season of all professional sports. So every game means something. And you have that build-up every week. Two teams in talking about the last game for a couple days and then focusing on the next week. And to me, that type of event is what makes, in some ways, Las Vegas realizes they know how to make events happen. And I think we try to match that a little bit. We do our best to create events in the NFL.
There is some controversy. There's been a lot of discussion about how the pass interference rule or some of the replays have not worked as well. What is the future of the process, and how is it evolving?
The rules process? Well, every year we have...
Or pass interference specifically.
Pass interference, well, first, it's important to note the rule did not change.
Right.
Pass interference rule is the exact same rule.
It's the replay of it that changed.
We brought replay in last year, and it was designed to fix the clear and obvious error.
Right.
It was not designed to make officiating perfect because that's impossible.
Right.
We all want it to be the best it possibly can be. And we're not going to re-officiate a game. So if it's not clear and obvious, and everybody has their own definition of what clear and obvious is, depending on who you're rooting for and where the call goes. I promise you. But we leave it on the field because the game, while we want to use technology to make it better, we want to avoid the obvious error. We want to make sure the outcome is the correct outcome based on the teams on the field, not officiating or any other outcome. And that to us is what we try to do with technology. So replay's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
We'll have to, like with any aspect of a rule, perfect it. It was in for 1 year.
Right.
I promise you the competition committee, the coaches, we'll be spending the next 2 or 3 months trying to get that so we can get more consistency. But consistency is the key issue for us. That's ultimately when officiating is great. That's a consistency. Let me add one more point on the replay and, frankly, officiating. I think our officials are extraordinary. The game is so much faster. And by the way, you see more. As fans, you see everything. If you go back and look at a football game 20 years ago in standard def television, and now look at what you're seeing now with high def and super slow-mo and being able to move the camera around, it's extraordinary. And when you see that, you realize how tough a job these guys have.
Right.
And it's just getting harder. But I'm really proud of our officials. I know they're more disappointed when they make a mistake, but we're continuing to invest to make sure that we do everything to support them.
The Raiders were ahead of the Rooney Rule, with first Hispanic and African American coaches hired. The rule requires teams to interview a minority coach every year, or every head coaching opening, Some businesses even adopted that. It's been such a positive aspect. Yet only today, four head coaches in the NFL are minorities. What's necessary to improve that number?
Well, we're not where we want to be. We think we can do better in this area. The Rooney Rule, I think, was a tremendous improvement for it, because what it did is it required every club to interview a diverse slate of candidates,
right,
which is, in my view, the reason I'm a big believer in diversity. It makes you better. It makes your organization better. It makes you better personally. It makes a team better. And so what we want to do is make sure the best candidates are succeeding and getting to the job. There's only 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL. They're competitive. They're difficult. We have a lot of great coaches out there, including a lot of great minority coaches. We have to go back and look, in addition to the Rooney Rule, what else we can do to try to give these great coaches an opportunity to be successful at the NFL level. And that's something we're committed to. Every club goes into the process following the Rooney Rule, and it's the outcomes that I think are the disappointment, not the rule.
Right.
So what we have to do is try to figure out if we can help give those coaches a better opportunity to prove that they're ready for the opportunity.
What are your thoughts about the changing structure of the season? There's been talk about going from 16 games to 17 regular season games. How might the preseason and the playoff change if that happens?
Well, we think it's important to look at it on a year-round basis. We obviously are never going to play games on a year-round basis, but we look at the events from the off-season. It goes to the combine, it goes to the draft, it goes to free agency. And it goes to how we train our athletes and how do we prepare our athletes. And we look at that to training camp, to kickoff, to the length of the preseason, which I'm on record that I think we should do nothing but the highest standard entertainment. And I don't think the preseason meets that standard. We believe we're at a position now where coaches believe that they don't need 4 preseason games.
Right.
So I expect we'll reduce a preseason game sometime in the near future. I think the competitiveness of our league that we talked about before, I believe that we could add 2 teams to the playoff round and probably still have an incredibly competitive postseason and regular season. And I do believe that a 17th regular season would bring higher quality games,
right,
instead of a preseason game. It would be very positive. And with our changes in our health and safety, I think we can do it where we can protect our players and make sure that they're getting the right kind of support. So to me, that's how you look at it.
Right.
How do we look at the entire picture and make all of that better? And we're having those discussions with our players in our collective bargaining agreement, and I think they've been productive, respectful, and I think we found some creative solutions to some of the challenges.
One more question.
Uh-oh.
This is the 100th season of the NFL, a very important milestone for the league. If you were writing a chapter of the NFL history, what are you most excited about for the next 100 years of the NFL?
Wow, that's right. The good news is I won't be commissioner for the next 100 years. But, I think it's the game itself and how it evolves. It's interesting when you go back and look over the first 100 years how the game changed at different stages and different decades. And I think it's happening right now before our eyes. We still have some of the greatest quarterbacks at age 40 and 42, 41 now. Drew just turned 41 the other day. And Tom Brady at 42, who want to continue to play.
Another Patriots fan, yeah.
I think that's a Tom Brady fan.
Oh, okay.
So, but when you see that and you see these great players and playing at the highest level for that length of period of time, and then you see these superstars that I talked about, these young kids coming out, and then a whole crop of great college quarterbacks coming in. I don't think the quarterback play has ever been as good as it is today in the NFL and the future of that. And there are a lot of other great players at different positions that are making a difference in our game. So it's the quality of the play, the game, and I think, when you bring cities like Las Vegas into your future, you're only going to get better.
Roger, thank you for spending time with us today.
My
Everybody,
pleasure.
Roger Goodell.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goodell.
You just heard from NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and his thoughts on Las Vegas becoming an NFL city as the town gets closer and closer to calling the Raiders the Las Vegas Raiders. The Review-Journal has all of your Raiders and Allegiant Stadium coverage at reviewjournal.com, as well as Vegas Nation.